No, but okay. So you're gonna need to use that little microphone. Are you? Huh?
Oh my gosh, I saw I got the front and I thought I'd come And I was like, what a funny thing. Like, what a funny country. Yeah. Like, as if, like, back in like, I was like, wow, this is very funny. Being open to the changing technology.
I'm not sure.
Total
I'm not
sense.
sure who
Yeah.
to
I mean,
up.
Couple minutes until we get started. If you have not checked in, we have some welcome volunteers over here at the entrance.
I just unplugged this.
Pre-registered online. They'll mark you off the list when you did.
Just take that off. It's not working.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. We'll have to try it again. Okay. You might want to see if you can click this up there.
You said it wasn't working.
Yeah. Why isn't it not working? Well, but a minute ago, I had headphones on and you were talking into it and it was working.
You were hearing through that. And you have to switch between the channels. So,
And you also had some node data center stuff. We'll also go into those folks as well. So, if you have any questions, feel free to come up here and I'm happy to answer them for folks.
All you can really hear is the people talking. We can't really understand him very well.
can you hear?
Yeah, you can hear the people talking.
Okay.
But when they start using that microphone, I'm not sure you're going to catch it very good.
Go and listen to audio. I'm going to stand up here on that part. I'm going to get in front of the camera.
You are? Okay. Yeah, but you're going to...
I'm on this side. I can't control that.
I'll go this way because I need to use the restroom.
Like the tie. I like the tie.
Hello everyone. I don't know how well the audio will be sounding. I don't know if you can see me, but anyhow, I didn't get a chance to test the microphones, and so they weren't working right. So we'll just do the best we can. Thank you. you go.
I'm Nancy Watson. I live in rural Pacific, and our property is next door to the data center. We have 5 families, all relatives, living on our property. So the idea of a data center directly on our border is overwhelmingly disturbing, not just because of the fact that it's next door. We are equally disturbed over the fact itself of a hyperscale data center being dropped into beautiful rural Pacific on prime agricultural farmland. The data center does not belong where it is planned to be. It needs to be somewhere else. And this is not just me saying not in our backyard. I'm not going to suggest any other place that it should go in Pacific or Franklin County. I'm sure that a better place can be found. The construction of the data center is going to take between 6 and 10 years. We are going to have heavily laden trucks coming in to the property along Highway O. They are going to be there maybe 7 days a week, it doesn't matter. Whenever they're there, we're going to know they're there. We're not going to be comfortable living on our property if this does happen. So whoever's listening to this YouTube video, get out there and fight this thing, because the contract is apparently for 30 years. So we're going to have to watch it being built. We're going to have to live through that. And then we're going to have to live with all the negative effects of a data center on our land, on the environment, on our endangered species. We have bald eagles flying over our house. We have deer. It's a wonderful place to live, and my husband and I fully expected that this would be something for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Are you speaking? Are you speaking? Well, that's okay. That's okay.
Trucks coming in to the property
Here's a chair for you to sit in. Yeah, you know, walk the direction here. Sean, you know who Sean Casey is?
and collecting signatures so we can get this on the ballot, so we can stop them from overturning what we vote for, as well as preserve citizens' right to petition, as well as require clear and concise language. So I'd appreciate it if you sign. I think it's important. It's nonpartisan. It's going to affect us all. So let's keep our ability to preserve what we vote for in the state of Missouri. Thank you very much.
I guess I didn't find it all.
Hey, that's okay. We're all.
Oh, you coming to our policy our town hall? Wednesday night.
All right, we're doing a sound check. Up there, those are coming out of the Okay. You might just need a speakers to get close to the mic to make sure that it comes out. Start in just a minute.
No, let's do that.
All right. Thank you folks for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. For folks who do not know who I am, my name is Lucas Kirk. I'm a lifelong resident of Sullivan, Missouri, and I'm an organizer with the Franklin Rural Coalition. We are a group of Franklin County residents from Pacific, Gray Summit, and the entirety of the county who are working against two data center sites right now in the southeastern corner of Franklin County, but are interested in making sure that these data centers aren't being built anywhere in the county. So we are excited here today to have our panel of experts who have agreed to answer questions and give us some information about these data centers, the effects that they have on our use so that we can be educated and know what is happening with these two sites and then beyond more broadly with data centers. So a couple of housekeeping items as we get started. If folks don't mind and attention here. We mentioned some of the things up front, including the signature gathering effort. There's also some additional pieces of yard signs and t-shirts and things that you're interested in, you can catch on your way out. Bathrooms and water fountains are back there, so please take care of yourself if you need to go back there. They're out by that door. And I think that is everything. But we just really want to appreciate the hundreds of people who have shown up here today to become more educated on this issue in our community. We are excited to see a lot more of you come and join us on the 17th when the Planning and Zoning Commission takes up this issue at the Union High School at their meeting there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass to Amanda just to kind of ground us in this space.
Hello, my name is Amanda Tayo. I'm a resident of Pacific, and my parents live in Disloyal States. I am also part of the Franklin County Rural Coalition. I am also the co-director of the Sojoy People's Fund, and I have a master's in theology from Eden Seminary. So I'm going to start today with what the truth is, which is that we are not separate from the earth. However we name the holy, whether it's God, Creator, Spirit, the story of our beginning, according to Genesis, tells us that we were formed from dust and animated by breath. We were not placed above the land. In fact, we were shaped from it, and we are of it. There was never a separation between soil and spirit. From the beginning, land and life and matter and breath have belonged together. Which means when the land is strained, we are strained. And when the water is threatened, we are threatened. We cannot pretend that decisions about water and energy and development are separate from our moral and spiritual lives. Because these decisions are actually the very essence of our being. Theologian Cole Arthur Riley writes, "We are not meant to be masters of the earth, but participants in its life." Yet so much of our development language assumes mastery and control and extraction. But Scripture calls us to be stewards. And stewardship means care, reciprocity, and accountability. A data center may be described as infrastructure, but it draws an immense amount of water, it consumes enormous amounts of energy, it produces heat and noise, and those impacts are not evenly distributed. They fall somewhere. They fall on someone. So we must ask a simple question: who bears the burden? Our children? Our animals? Our land? And let me say this plainly. It is valid to feel anger when the institutions meant to protect the common good appear to side with profit over people. Scripture does not condemn righteous anger. The prophets were angry. Jesus himself overturned tables when sacred space was turned into a marketplace. Anger, when rooted in love and justice, is not sin. It is a signal that something sacred is being threatened. Our anger tells us that we know this land is not disposable. Our anger tells us that our neighbors are not collateral damage. Our anger tells us that we expect more from those entrusted with governance. The question is not whether we feel anger or whether it's righteous. The question is, what do we do with it? Will it harden us, or will it clarify our commitment to justice? Toni Morrison said, the function of freedom is to free someone else. And if our innovation requires someone else's depletion, then it is not freedom. If our convenience requires someone else's risk, it is not love. And Morrison also warned us, love is or it ain't. Thin love ain't love at all. Thin love says it's within regulation. Thin love says it's inevitable. Thin love says it's not my backyard. But courageous love, it asks harder questions. Who will live with the consequences? Who will absorb the risk? Who will pay for our convenience? So the deeper question before us is not who in this world. It is, what kind of community are we choosing to be? Are we a community that treats land as disposable once it becomes profitable? Or are we a community that understands that some things, water, air, land, health, are sacred, and they are not easily restored once they are compromised? Courageous love does not ask only what is allowed, it asks what is right. Courageous love does not ask only what benefits me, it asks what protects us. Thin love is easy, because it isn't even love at all. But courageous love is the only love that honors our interdependence. It's the only love that protects both our land and our neighbors. It is the only love that remembers that what we do to the earth is ultimately what we do to ourselves. So we're going to transition into the evening now. And I want you to go into that transition with these thoughts, right? Your anger is righteous. Your commitment is to one another. You are a sacred part of the land with a responsibility to be a steward.
Thank you, Amanda, for grounding us in what we are here today and what we're doing. So we're now going to have a little bit of community updates. So there's a lot of information circulating about what these data centers are, where we are in the process. So we want to give folks a little bit of a rundown of what is happening. There are 2 sites right now that we are fighting. And so I'm going to pass to Mark Baxa to talk a little bit about the Diamond Farms.
Well, thank you very much, and for Amanda and the entire organizing panel that put this, team has put this together, and to all of you, the property owners and citizens of Franklin County, and those who are interested. I am Mark Baxa, and I am a property owner since 1999 here in Missouri in Deloge Estates, which is 1 mile south of Highway 100 down Robertsville Road, and we'll point to some of that on a map here in just a few minutes. So my opportunity here is to connect what Amanda brought forward and the heart and the emotion of this and get to the journey on how we got to where we are today. And I want to thank a very special neighbor and friend, Dean Kathy Boland, because it was Kathy that brought it up to a number of us that something was about to happen, and none of us knew anything about this. And then shortly, a few property owners who were within supposedly 600 feet of the property line of Diamond Farms, as Deloge Estate sits at the south end of that and west end, received letters of the notice of the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, which was to take place on January 20th. The public was advised through the newspaper And as many of you now today, we don't really look for a lot of detail in our bi-weekly newspaper. It's great to have. But something like this required something of much larger and bigger exposure well before it happened, given the known order of magnitude and impact that is arising through the rural communities across the United States when it comes to the sudden plant of hyperscale data centers. I want to go on record as saying that I work for an association that advocates for the advancement of technology and supply chain, and all of you feel the benefit of that. Because when you go to your local store and you expect it to be there, or your online retailer and expect it to be there, everything you're purchasing goes through data transmissions. However, I also want to be clear that just because you can doesn't mean you should, and I'll explain what I mean by that. There are right places and there are wrong places to advance the footprint of manufacturing and digital centers throughout the United States. And there are places that create shock and awe for residents, particularly in the rural communities where we are entitled to peaceful enjoyment of our property, and that must be protected. So I have a few comments to share a little bit, and I apologize if this is small print, but I think, Amanda, we can share this with somehow, right? So let me just say that upon learning about this, we attended the January 20th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in Union, and we did the best we could as a subdivision of 46 property owners to assemble the paperwork that was required to get it in front of the commissioners prior to the meeting. And we had certain conditions in there and a lot of emphasis, much of what Amanda already talked about, that ties back to our rights as ordinary citizens and property owners, especially rural property owners in the communities here in Franklin County. We also addressed some very hard and very important criteria that should be represented if anything was to be put forward by the Planning and Zoning Commissioners to the 3 commissioners of Franklin County as the recommendation for the planning and zoning laws. Nobody got to see this information because Franklin County took all these kinds of things off of their website, so you had to ask and you could get it. But you had to know where to go get it, and first and foremost, even ask for it. Now, we were brought to the attention, and we can go to the next slide. We were brought to the attention that something was going to happen because we heard that the impact on Village Estates was frankly the sale of Diamond Farms and Diamond 66, we'll just call it Diamond Farms, along Robertsville Road, approximately 600 acres for the purpose of building a hyperscale data center. We'll call it shock and awe, okay? So at that point, we realized, and here on this map, you can see pretty much a contiguous 600 acres. Now, Diamond 66 and Diamond Farms are 2 adjoining properties. Outside of that, you see in the upper part of where the red line is, there's Schatz Electric there on the first red line to the left. To your left there, to the right of that is a white space, that's Schatz Electric, and to the right of that is a very small trailer park community. The rest of that is Diamond Farms and Diamond 66. The right-hand line, the red line that you see there is Robertsville Road. The jagged line at the bottom of the picture that you see is the north and west borders of property owners of Deloge Estates. You can get an idea how close we are. On the right-hand side of the far right red line is approximately 2,700 acres of one of the most magnificent and important properties, not only for here, but in this world, and it's called Shaw Nature Reserve. Right? There are rare species there are rare plants, and for the enjoyment of populations, who wants to go there and be obstructed by a lot of noise and etc. Right? So that's over there to the right side is Shaw Nature Reserve. The epitome of rural America, except for missing corn and soybean fields. The same developer that is involved in this is also covering 250 bushel acre, 90 bushel acre soybeans across central Illinois with plastic, solar panels, windmills, and other things. Now, am I against this personally? No. But I am against the improper placement. We're getting ahead of ourselves. And the planning and zoning commissioners need to understand what's at their feet. This is no opportunity for rubber stamping. If you don't know, don't vote. If you don't know, don't vote. Because this is magnificent in nature and scope and of great impact to all of our lives if you get it wrong. All right, next slide. Okay, so from the January 20th meeting, we saw that the proposed articles of incorporation for the ordinances of data centers in Franklin County. What's really interesting about this is they were created just a few days before the meeting out of somewhere by someone or some people who have no experience in establishing these regulations. They got them from somewhere. There were things in there that were gravely concerning. No preservation of groundwater. I think, and all of us will agree, inappropriate sound levels and sound testing frequencies by the county. No clarification of requirements around environmental protections or property values. Nowhere close. Well, what was really surprising to me is this was all about business, and hey, I'm the biggest capitalist there is. But that Planning and Zoning Commission and the commissioners have a primary responsibility, and that is for the citizens of the county first. Now, we all need business to do things. We gotta go to stores, we go to work, we all get it, right? It's not about that. It's about the decision-making and the knowledge needed to make the decisions. So we heard at that meeting a lot of feedback. There were over 1,000 people that had gathered inside and outside. Most of you are aware, and probably most of you were there. All right, so in the discussion, we didn't hear a lot other than from the attorneys representing Diamond Farms, and of course, the representative from Provident Real Estate Properties, the developer of the data center, and of course, the loud voice of the community, which caused the Planning and Zoning Commission to set back for 6 months the decision. It got really close. One person, one strong voice, seemed to sway the opinion of the others to move in that direction. We were that close. Now, what we asked them to do was take their time to study. That's what we were after. To assure they're making good decisions for all of us. And all of us are being asked now, in an organized fashion, to put together the best ideas in order to mitigate the risk of data centers and perhaps even prevent them from coming into the county in the first place. So during that meeting, then we learned that there was going to be subsequent meetings. The Planning and Zoning meeting on the 17th then was actually, by the way, the finalization of the attorneys representing Diamond Farms. They didn't pull their rezoning request of the Diamond Farms from agricultural to industrial A. They just merely postponed, all right? So they didn't continue at that point. On the 17th of February, we had representation from Deloge Estates there, and actually from the Rural Coalition. And they heard the county attorney say, recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commissioners, you guys need to really get with it, because the interested parties want to get this back on the discussion in March 17th, the next Planning and Zoning meeting. Now, by my math, that's not 6 months. Okay, that's where we are. The attorney for the county represented himself more for the acquisition of the planning and zoning, actually the zoning change, than for representing the county. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Now, here's where we are. We're heading towards the 17th of March, where we will have the next planning and zoning meeting that's going to take place at the Union High School. We're expecting a big crowd. And what's really important, and I'm about done here, is to let you know that the emotion and the heart feel that we have about our land, our property, the presence of data centers, the risks associated with it, many of them misunderstood or not even understood at all, misrepresented is probably the better way to put it. We don't know. We don't really know. So we will prepare with the help of the attorneys that we're working with, we will prepare as a group the best position to represent the people and how this needs to be thought about, what we're really thinking. But as far as our journey today, that's as close as we are to the edge. Now we're working towards March 17th, the next planning and zoning meeting. We understand that a recommendation has been made to put the same set of proposed rulemaking and ordinances for discussion during that meeting with potentially some minor tweaks. And they, again, are woefully insufficient. There are no protections for groundwater. There's no protection in there for wildlife. There certainly isn't enough interest or evidence that we're protecting the citizens and the property owners of this county first and foremost. It's really about the structure of what a rezoning would look like for these specific properties, the Diamond Farms and Diamond 66, and the rulemaking that's necessary to guide the establishment of data centers in Franklin County. And we're all about saying, hold on just a minute, wait a minute. So the other thing we've also learned is that Beltline, who is the representative for the McLaren farm, we'll hear about it in a little bit, has also petitioned the county for their rezoning the property. So they may be playing both sides of the coin. If McLaren's farm is not annexed into Pacific, that they're also at the county level. Now, I have read the requirements or the supposed request for the Planning and Zoning Committee or the Alderman in Pacific, and that is even more woefully insufficient. The engineering firm that also put the recommendation for the planning and or the alderman to consider has a setback of the buildings of 100 feet from the nearest property, private property. It's in there. The attorneys for Beltline said 300 feet. Our county had 1,000 feet, and we're asking for a whole lot more. Now, we're not advocating, in my mind, that it's okay to put data centers in here as long as you meet these criteria, but it's the build criteria that are tough, really tough. But first and foremost, we want the Planning and Zoning Commission and the commissioners of this county to vote in favor of the people. Vote in favor of the people. Now make no mistake about it, this county alone isn't going to make data centers go away. How many of you in the room are willing to admit you have a smartphone in your pocket at this moment? Okay. Becky and I, my wife and I, stopped in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. This is one tiny commercial. And in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, they're building one of the meta hyperscale data centers. And this puts steroids on the term hyperscale. It's over 600 acres. They can do a lot of work in just 3 months, as evidence from the time they started in November of 25 until just a short 3 weeks ago when we were there. It's big, it's going to be loud, and it's going to consume a lot of power. And one thing I want to put out there, and I love this because the developers are not necessarily the ones operating the data centers, and that's another thing we need to be willfully, willingly be concerned about. So it's one thing to put them in, it's another thing to operate and give them permissions and succession. So we got a lot to do between the 17th of March and now. But thank you all for your interest and your voice. It matters a lot.
Thank you, Mark. I see a couple folks have questions, and I'm just going to say that we have opportunities for all of our speakers to go, and then the entire back half of our agenda is for folks to ask questions. So feel free to write those down, feel free to hold on to those, and we will have plenty of time to get through folks' questions at the end. But I want to appreciate Mark for giving us that update on where we are in terms of the Diamond Farms site. There is another data center that they are trying to build not too far away from that site. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Kelsey Eversmeyer to come up and give us an update about that site. Thank you, Kelsey.
Hey folks. I'm gonna go here. Again, you're going to get thanked a million times for being here. We love the civic engagement, so thank you guys. How many of you were at the Pacific meeting on Thursday? Same.
Tuesday?
Was it Tuesday?
Yeah. Or Wednesday, it was Wednesday. Yeah.
I don't know what day it is.
It was
As you guys do.
Yeah.
So I want to give some updates. As of right now, Roots Coalition is merging our efforts with Franklin County because our site is getting moved over to Franklin County. However, just to be specific, while talking on behalf of Roots, they are staying as a separate coalition, and we are still working with Franklin County Rural Coalition as well. So just so you guys know about that. So I just have some timeline updates for you guys up here. Starting with, let's go ahead and start with the meeting that happened last week. So on the 25th, Pacific had their Planning and Zoning Commission meeting at Pacific High School. That was open, immediately closed without public comment. And the reason being is that the developer said he was paused due to a funding issue. The funding they didn't have was to cover $20,000 to hire private counsel. So this is not yet the testing that was discussed at our town hall that we had at the senior center. This was just to get counsel so that we know what questions to ask these developers. So that was turned down by them. So, you know, we're kind of starting here at the 25th, but backing it all the way up. February 13th is when Beltline had submitted a proposal with Franklin County. So they already came into that meeting knowing that they were playing in both fields. February 17th is when the Missouri Department of Conservation reported with their natural heritage report that there were, you know, wildlife and endangered species that should not be touched in and around those grounds. That is for rural areas in general because, you know, we're friendly to wildlife, so they like to hang out with us. So then after that, when they decided that they didn't, that they wanted to pause that funding, there was a proposal that was going to Franklin County that's already on that agenda for the 17th, which most of us are aware of if you are now, if you weren't before coming in today. So as of right now, the Roots Coalition, our focuses are our goal, which is to push Franklin County not to accept without, as Mark said, sufficient regulation, sufficient counsel, and sufficient testing. Nobody wants to get into something that we don't know what we're getting into. It's just not, you know, an intelligent decision. Then our vision is to have accountability and legal oversight of projects in the area, whether it's a data center or not. Because we should all have a say in our community. Again, we are a county, so this is our community. We get to determine what it's going to look like, and not everyone can afford to just up and leave. I would argue that most people cannot. So we're here to fight for one another. And that being said, at the last meeting, there were a lot of people who were talking about, you know, health impacts and things of that nature. I do have a background in health science and human performance. So I did put together a little bit of a preliminary research review for you guys. I'm just going to go over a couple of the pieces of research in that. Amanda, if you want to click that QR code, it will, if I did it right. So admittedly, I got a different domain for this, but it is living on my personal website. This is not to sell anything. This is on its own independent page. So if you guys come here, you can feel free to interact on this page. You don't need to go to the rest of the website. However, I put this in here because a lot of people were talking about noise pollution, air pollution, things of that nature. I now work in community health, helping the health of communities. So I work with small businesses. I work with health outcomes of communities as well as individuals. So one thing that I want to just put out plainly, my background is in research. I don't actively work in the lab, but my background is in science. I am a trained human ethics certified researcher. I keep hearing that we don't have enough data on data centers. We don't have enough long-term studies. We don't have any of this. And I want to give you guys just a little bit of an understanding of information, because while we do not have verbatim studies done on a particular center from A to Z, one thing we have to keep in mind is that we do have general information for things like noise. There's already been research done on what noise tolerance is and at what point you start to lose hearing. We already know what respiratory risks exist. There's already thresholds for that. So we don't necessarily have to study the data centers themselves to understand the implications on health because of them. So if we know that they're running at a certain noise level, we can compare that to research we already have about noise levels and their effect on hearing, things of that nature. So let's go ahead and flip through that a little bit. I'm gonna have you go again. Keep going. Where do we find your presentation? We'll release this. This will be on the Franklin County Rural Coalition site, as well as definitely the Roots Coalition site after this. But I started out, you guys, on some information about different types of data centers. There's a lot of different forms, but these are the four most common in Missouri. So we're focused on hyperscalers in our area, so we're going to call that big house compared to the little houses that were just regular data centers coming up. So those are those much larger scaled, and we're looking at, again, if we have information on smaller data centers, we know that, those health impacts are just going to be compounded when we're looking at bigger facilities. So if we want to go a little bit further on, Amanda, keep going, we're going to get to the health part. So as far as our current state of health, in the state of Missouri, rural areas are even worse off in health outcomes than city centers are. And that has a lot to do with health access, with quality of care, technology available in clinics, hospitals, things of that nature. So right now, the health state of Missouri isn't great. And to put more health risks on us is not going to be best for our outcomes. And the problem here is that we talk a lot about the benefits of, financial benefits of data centers and what they could do. There's a lot of potential speaking on these projects. One issue that I've had with that as a professional is that we're looking at health costs that are going to be put on the individuals. Beltline is not going to be paying your health bills when you start getting increased rates of asthma. We're looking at $20 billion a year in respiratory issues from data centers alone come 2028. And they're not even all here yet. So while we talk about the tax incentives, and that's not my lane of expertise, so I'm going to stay out of that, but I'm just going to say in general, I can't say if one outweighs the other verbatim or for sure, but I do know that my community, the people I love, cannot afford their health bills right now. And I know Beltline is not going to cover that expense. So we have that in addition to the utility costs that are going to be increasing. Go ahead and go on, Amanda. Perfect. So the main pollutants that we're talking about here, and I'm going to let Natalie talk more about the water side of things because I have that in here as well for you guys to review. But one of the main things when it comes to pollutants is air quality. So that is where we're seeing some of the heaviest health impacts. This isn't my perspective as someone who has a health science background, but I know most of us are probably a little bit more worried about our lungs than we are our ears sometimes. At least that's my perspective. But one thing that's really important to look at here is the respiratory costs of these centers. We're talking about air pollutants that are verbatim soot. That's not good for you to be breathing in, and it's required for these centers. We're talking about diesel generators, sometimes for 500 milliwatt campuses. We're talking about over 100. I've seen up to 126 of these guys on these centers. All of those expel pollutants and particle matter into the air in varying degrees. So we have to look at that because that's something we'll be breathing in. A lot of the community concerns were about water pollutants, which is really just a risk if there is to be chemicals expelled off of that plant, which again, Natalie would be able to speak to better than I can. But we're also looking at secondary water pollution from air pollution. So what is in the air comes down to the soil, is coming into the water as well. So that's kind of a twofer to think about there. Perfect. So I have some information. This is also linked out, so whenever you open this on the website, you'll be able to click into these links. But go ahead and go to the next one, Amanda. This one is an interactive on the risk of noise pollution. I've heard a lot more information about this that people are understanding of, but I put a graph down here. It'll show you on the left-hand side the noise variance that they are promising. It's not in writing, they're not promising it, but it's what they're saying is going to happen. On the right side, from data centers that started in 2020 in Romania, and then across the data center, what are they calling it? Data center alley in Virginia, they are showing records of that being about double what was promised in the first place. So we're looking at upwards of 80, 90 decibels instead of the 50 to 65 that's being reported. And then on this slide, when you come to it, you'll be able to click on that ear. That is a link that will take you to a really great resource where you can play around with different noise levels. You can see where the dangers are. I believe that's through the NIH, so that's an official website you guys can look at. to look at this noise pollution and what that actually sounds like. And then there's also a link, if you click the generator underneath, it'll give you an idea of a YouTube video of a center in Virginia and how loud it is from 23 feet away. And the reason that is important is because on the next slide, you can go to that. This will be a detail of the entire Franklin County area. So this shows about a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius out. This is why rural areas specifically are hard hit for these data centers, because noise pollution in the city is not irrelevant. Don't get me wrong, that is just as dangerous for them as it is for us. However, when we're talking about rural projects, we're talking about sound that carries further. We're talking about noise pollution that carries further than average. So this is going to give you an idea of, sometimes we're seeing 65, like 50 to 65 decibels out, you know. We're talking about, what was it, 1,000 feet for the Deloge property? That's less than a quarter mile. And we're talking about hearing things 1, 3, and 5 miles out. So, you know, even though these are the standards, are our standards good? That's the question we need to be asking. So that'll give you some information on that there, and something to be conscientious of is when it comes to noise pollution, we're talking about mental health here. We're talking about irritability. We're talking about sleep deprivation. We're talking about a lot of different things that impact your overall quality of life, your ability to recover from one day to the next. You know, these may be secondary factors, but they're going to be primary factors for every individual sitting in the room. Go ahead and on from there. So my end question is, great opportunity for who? Of course, because while there may be, and who knows, because again, not in writing, maybe there will be lucrative aspects to doing something like this, but my biggest question mark is, can you afford it as an individual? Can you afford the health expenses? Because that's something that I have not heard anyone explicitly say is, are the wide tax incentives going to outweigh what's coming out of your pocket, both in utility expenses, in health, and everything else? Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't need another bill. Go ahead and move on. I think that's all I have for you guys today. Yeah, and then on here, I just put a little form. This is not affiliated with Roots or with Franklin County. I just put a form on there for my own personal curiosities. If you want to go on there and put any type of feedback, if you want resources for everything that went into the presentation, I'm happy to hand those over. This is just a very rough draft of everything I put together just from hearing everyone's health concerns over the last couple months. All right, and we'll publish that on the Facebook pages. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kelsey. So now we are going to talk more about the effects of these data centers and what we should be expecting out of these two sites. And I think Kelsey started getting us into that, but the rest of our panel, the rest of our experts are going to speak to that, and they'll each have about 10 minutes. And speakers, please hold yourself to the 10 minutes. We're just a little over right now. But next we're going to have Keith Ketcherside come up and talk a little bit about the effects of these data centers and how we can respond. Thank you, Keith.
Good day, all. The real experts. Good day, all. These are the real experts. And I'm becoming kind of a, knowledgeable person about this situation. And I've got to also credit my neighbors who have also been doing a ton of work researching the legal avenues as well as our path into our governing body. So I got to hats off to the community here and for you all showing up. And whether you're in support or opposition to this, we got to make good decisions based on evidence, right? So full disclosure, I work for a company that built a data center in North County in 2009. And I'm going to kind of walk through, kind of a perspective of what it looks like on a smaller scale. And then we're going to step back and I'll show you a larger scale view of what that looks like. And we are we've sold that property and we've moved all of our compute out of this building to the cloud. The cloud is a physical data center footprint in Chicago and Ashburn, Virginia. So, next slide, please. All right, so this is a little bit of a view about the scale of this building. It's a 39,000 square foot facility. It's about 90% the size of a football field. And it's got a small electrical substation. It's got solar panels on top to kind of offset some of the electric use. The interior space is large. We've got 12,000 square foot raised floor compute space. We're only using about 6,000 square foot of it, or have been using only 6,000. And then it's got it's got batteries in the facility, and it's got generator backup to supply power if the grid were to go down. That's a view of what those generators look like. They're 40-foot dual generators, and they do need to be refueled. They do need to be tested once per month, and that's a thing that we're all going to have to contend with if this gets passed, if these get installed. Next slide. This is just a view of UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. And there's a couple different varieties of these things, and each has a pro and a con with it. And so I think about life safety and the risk to health. And any one of these elements that go into a data center can pose a risk to our environment and to our safety and health of our being. So we need a lot more data than what we've seen so far. Next slide. This is the interior view of one of the rows. So each rack contains servers, load balancers, routers, and each of those racks requires cooling and power distribution units to distribute power amongst everything. Okay. This is just a high-level view of that 6,000 square foot data center space that we're occupying today. Okay. And this is a view I put together of what I do know about the proposed facility, the Beltline facility in Crooked Creek, which I am a next door neighbor to that property. And I know it's hard to see, but I took the footprint of that facility up in North County and I mapped it out across my 10-acre property, which is to the south of the property line here. And then I put one of those 39,000 square foot images in one of the building there on the far bottom right. And that kind of gives me a perspective of what the scale of these buildings looks like. So our facility was a small.
So this is the small inside of the big.
Wow.
This is a hyperscale data center driven by the use of AI. And I'm not against data centers. I'm not against data. We need that to survive. And we need that to remain competitive at the global marketplace and in a peace through strength perspective. So our military is a big advocate for AI. We need the ability to do this, but we got to do it with new ways of thinking. We can't keep building these out and covering up our beautiful ground with concrete and iron. We have to have new ways of doing this, new ways of supporting it. The infrastructure's got to have some new thinking put into it. So for all of us, I think we're all concerned with the setback away from our property and the sound quality and the air quality around it. So next slide. So this is a little bit more of why I'm concerned, but I think I share some of the concerns that you all have as well. And that's, we need empirical evidence to show us what this is and what it isn't. These have to be done through engineering studies, independent studies. What's the impact to our properties? Are they going to go down or are they going to go up? We need to have that studied out for us. For environmental health and safety, I'm concerned because of my proximity about noise pollution, light pollution, EMF discharge, RF propagation. Right? And so we need to have those studied out. We need to have those explained, what those impacts look like for us. The other concern is the consumption of our finite resources. So the cooling systems, at least for the Beltline proposal, is a water-based system. And we need to know where that water is going to come from and where the discharge is going to go. Electricity, consumption and source is a big concern. Some of us have seen the obsolescence plan for our Labadie power plant. So there's going to have to be some new sources of electricity generated to supply the large amount of electricity these facilities are going to require. And then for the proposal itself, we need to see a plan about what happens when they abandon that facility and move on, and who's going to decommission it and who's going to pay for that. We just need to have that explained to us. And I gotta give credit to our leadership, to our elected government. They've been coming to our groups, coalitions. They've been attending other meetings. They've come to my neighborhood. They've talked to us. So I applaud that. And they're, at least in Pacific, they're listening to us. And the evidence of that is they've required Beltline to provide funding, as was explained earlier, funding to show us what it is and what it isn't. And that's a really good thing. So for Beltline, it's a 9-year development, roughly, right? So during that period of time, there's lots of construction, lots of noise, and lots of air pollution going on. One of the other concerns is regarding the light. There's a phenomenon called ALON, artificial light at night, and then LEDs emit a blue-rich wavelength. So there have been studies that show this does have an impact to circadian clock, to our melatonin production, and ultimately to our cardiovascular system. Those are things that we need to know about, and we need to see evidence of mitigation for those things. Let's see, I've mentioned RF energy. Here's a little impact. So the facility proposed by Beltline is right next to the Merrimack River. And we haven't seen an elevation plan that depicts how they're going to build that up and keep at least a portion of it that was on the screen earlier from being flooded. So I imagine they're going to build it up a little bit, and that's just going to push the flooding downstream a ways, right? So we need to be aware of that phenomenon. And we have seen flooding over the last at least 7 or 8 times in recent history, and twice since I moved into the Pacific area, and I've been there for 15 years. We're going to hear a little bit more about the water cooling situation, closed loop versus the evaporative system. Both have pros and cons, and we need to be aware of what those are. And let's see, I think we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, so when this all started, I was angry. I went through that whole change cycle, and then I went to some other phases in that cycle, and finally I got to the point where, and as well as my neighbors, we got to do something. We got to start taking action. We got to organize, and so we hooked up with Roots and Franklin County, Rural Coalition, and others. And so we're sharing a lot of good information. We're linking arms, and we're going to show a united front to our elected leaders here. So we need to use our voices, and we got to come ready with fact-based rebuttal, and we have to have respectful pushback. And we need to use currently developed areas that are already zoned industrial. That would be my preference. Put it somewhere that needs the revenue stream that these things promise, and not develop a virgin territory. We need to stop this and put it where it needs to belong. If we can't stop it, we need to shape the outcome. And we can only do that if we join together and we come to these meetings and we have a single voice and we make our needs known to the elected officials. So a little bit of a warning here is that, and it's probably, the ship's probably set sail. I think Franklin County has rewritten their, or amended their Articles 2, 7, and 10 of the Unified Land Use Regulation, regulating data centers. And from what I understand from what my neighbor Scott's research, this will allow data centers as permitted use in an agricultural zoned area. This eliminates discretionary zoning review, shifts shifts approvals to make it an administrative process, and then reduces public hearings and case-by-case oversight. We need to revise that. We need to pump the brakes a little bit. We can't go into this with blinders on. We have to have a good view and a good plan that can sustain the next 10, 20, 30 years. We all have to live here. I raise chickens, we've got turkeys, I've got horses, we have a garden. So what happens in the atmosphere and in the ground and the groundwater will impact me and many, many people around me. So attend the March 17th Planning and Zoning meeting. Make your voice heard by submitting your testimony to Nicole's up. I put her contact information there. And you need to do that. If you're willing to do it, you need to do it before March 6th, 4:30 p.m. That's this coming Friday. And we have some examples of what we've submitted. And if you're interested in doing that, we can certainly share that with you. So what are our other options? And we're going to, we need to explore every avenue that we have in front of us. Legal actions as a group or a class, property owner actions. Time up? Okay. That's all right. Close. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith. And we have some opportunities for you to learn more and to get some assistance in that testimony that we'll tell you about a little bit later. But on your way out, you had the opportunity to talk with Patricia. She's raising her hand in the back right now, and she can give you some more information on that. And then Kathy is also going to talk about some of our next steps out of this space for folks later on in the presentation. So appreciate, Keith, those updates and information. And we are now going to jump to Natalie to talk a little bit about the effects of water. Natalie.
All right, everybody. So, give you a little info about me. I have been a certified water and wastewater operator for the state of Missouri going on 27 years now. I know a little bit about this business. I own my own business. I operate the treatment plants, and I also I have a laboratory, so I test water and wastewater for municipalities and also for individuals. So this is where I'm coming from. This is my background. And I want to tell you a little bit about the closed loop information. This is where this Diamond Farms is presenting, their system is going to be a closed loop. It's a different type of closed loop than what's supposed to be happening at the Pacific facility, especially now that Pacific may be out of containment. They're coming to the county now. They won't be using the wastewater as a water source for them. So we'll just talk about this closed loop. This is the Diamond Farm situation. And what this is going to do, it's going to inject chilled air into a small targeted area. So instead of blowing air into the whole room, like we would cool this whole room, the closed loop system focuses on just the equipment. So less energy is wasted in the closed loop, and it's a greater energy efficiency, and it's less air to cool overall. So it's more uncomfortable for the operators at these facilities because they're going to be walking into a warmer room, but the cooling is for the equipment. It's not to make people comfortable, it's for cooling the equipment that's there. Closed loop is more efficient than an open loop system, but it is less efficient than other cooling options. So like there's an immersion cooling, which is immersion of the equipment, and then direct to chip cooling. But these options are more expensive to implement and they have higher maintenance costs. So that's why they usually don't go with those right now. Next, there we go, thank you. So the water energy connection, just to give you an idea, the closed loop evaporative system, the cooling fluid stays within the sealed pipes, and this is repeatedly reused rather than consumed. So think of it like your air conditioner at your house. Those lines are continually running that fluid until you need to refill it eventually, and that's what happens with these. The other thing is the less water that they're going to use on site means that the power plant is going to use that water. So the water and energy relationship is hand in hand. If Labadee is going to provide more power, they're going to use the water at the power plant instead of using it at the facility. But if the facility is going to use more water, then Labadee is going to use less water for them. It's a correlation that goes together. No matter which way you're going, water is going to be used. It just depends on which side it's going to be used at. Next slide. So why is there a water issue here? Because of the closed loop system. So something is going to have to cool the closed loop system. These are water chillers. Water chillers require cooling towers, which require lots of water. The cooling towers can be air or water cooled, but these large scale facilities opts for water because it's more efficient for them, it's cheaper for them. The data center uses the cooling tower, if they use the cooling tower as a heat exchanger, an evaporative condenser, it's less water that's going to be required in the system as a whole. So if they go that route and instead of using the cooling tower, like we see a cooling tower somewhere, they could use that as a heat exchanger, which has a coil basically inside of it that they cool that coil. But water is still going to be required. Those internal coils get sprayed with a water mist, and that's what cools it. So our ambient air temperatures, the way that we fluctuate in Missouri in our area, I don't see them going with an air-cooled system. They're going to have to use water, and that's where this heat exchanger comes into place. Why still use a tower? So it allows for high-efficiency evaporative cooling while preventing contamination of the process fluid. Because that fluid is continually getting ran through that system. You don't want contaminants in there, otherwise it's going to ruin the equipment, it's going to ruin the pipes, any pumps, anything that's within that system will get ruined. So that's why they have that closed loop. There was a 2022 Department of Energy study. So DOE did a study. It's called the Data Center Energy Efficiency Report. It found that evaporative cooling towers are among the largest contributors to water consumption in the sector. So don't let them fool you that this thing isn't going to use water. It's going to use water. One way or the other, it's got to use it. Deciding, like I said before, deciding on whether it's air cooled or water cooled depends on the heat and humidity of the area and the temperatures and all of that stuff, so. Understanding the closed loop cooling towers. Closed circuit cooling towers or closed loop system use that sealed system to cool the water. Here's that breakdown. The heat transfer fluid, that's usually a water or glycol. There's chemicals within that water, and that's what keeps it running. It's just like your radiator. You can't just put water in your radiator. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have chemicals that go through there. That's what circulates through the closed loop, through those sealed pipes. The heat exchange, a closed loop cooling system maintains the optimal temperature within the sealed enclosure while keeping out warmer ambient air, humidity, dust, and other airborne contaminants. So that's what's going to keep the water clean, is keeping that tight. The evaporative cooling towers, that's where the water is sprayed onto the heat exchanger, removing the heat from the system. So that's how the heat goes away, is through that cooling tower that they can use also as a heat exchanger. The cooling system is recirculated within that closed loop. So it's just that continual loop, like I said, it's the same water, the same chemicals. I believe there was a letter from, I think it's Provident, that came to the Deloge States folks that has been circulating. They stated that, I think it was 10 to 15 years is how long the system is good for. So then they have to replenish that. So there are some benefits to the closed loop cooling tower. That's a contamination prevention, the sealed system, there's no contamination, so the equipment doesn't have those issues. There's efficiency, it's reduced risk of scaling and fouling, that's a maintenance situation for them at the center, and then the longevity just means less wear and tear on the equipment. And then our next slide. So where's the water gonna come from? On-site wells. According to this letter from Provident, no. There will be no on-site wells utilized or wells drilled. So we're going to go off of that wording. They said no in that letter. What does that mean? That means a public water supply is going to be utilized for this. So if PWSD number 3, which is the public water supply for all of us out there, if they find it feasible to be able to supply the water demand for the data center and not disrupt current customer load, they have the ability to supply the facility and approve supply line to that area. I have confidence in the management at PWSD3. I know that they're going to make the right decision to not disrupt our personal water supply. If they're going to disrupt it, they're not going to let it through. If they can't supply the water, they're not going to let it through. But my biggest question is, if they let it through and us with personal wells, because I'm one of those people, what happens to us? What's going to happen to our situation? We're not on the public water supply, but I look at that, if this thing goes through on the Phelan, the Crooked Creek situation goes through, I look at the water tower in Catawissa. If they drill a well that's up to 1,200 feet deep on that property, guess whose well is the first one to go out? It's mine. I'm looking at that tower. And it's the same thing for Diamond Farms. They have to drill another well because the water, if they're taking ground, water from the ground, from an aquifer, they're taking it from that, they're going to drill extra deep because they're allowed to in the state of Missouri. And I don't think Public Water 3 will allow their public supply to be affected. I'm just worried about the folks that are not on the public supply that would be affected. I think we could have a major impact. So that's my biggest questions. Will they have to drill in any wells? Can they supply the water needs as it is? And will this affect the local personal wells in the area? I think those are the big questions. And then wastewater end of things, I'm sorry, I'm probably going over. Cooling tower blowdown. It consists of the high concentrations of dissolved gases, heavy metals, concentrated salts, and these all have to go somewhere. For the Provident letter, they're going to have a contract hauler that will haul this stuff off. Where's it going to go? It's going to go to a larger wastewater plant. It's going to impact somebody else. Or they're going to take it to Illinois, which I really highly don't see that happening. They could go to Kentucky, they could go to Illinois and incinerate it. It's very expensive. So those are a couple options for them. Phosphorus is also going to be an issue after the water is cooled. I really hope that the Missouri DNR doesn't allow people to get a permit to dump straight to our river. Because if they do that, they can either have an on-site wastewater treatment plant, which would be, it's feasible for that to happen, but that water is still going to go to either the river or a tributary to the river. And if there is any upset with that wastewater plant, and ask me how I know that there are upsets at these wastewater plants, guess where that dirty water is going? Right where we put our canoes in, and we put our fishing pole in, and all the protected species that we've got are going to not be effective. So they say it's going to be a closed loop wastewater system. They say it's going to be a closed loop water cooling system. There's a lot more involved with that, and there's a lot of words that get thrown out there that mean one thing to the public, but really mean something else to people that know what it means. So just educate yourselves. If you're on the boards, educate. And like you said, if you don't know it, don't vote it. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm going to invite John Kaufman to come up now and speak a little bit about the infrastructure.
Hello, good afternoon, y'all. My name is John. Hi. Hey. And just thanks for being, I know it's a real sacrifice to take this much time out of your afternoon to be here, and I know you're looking at a bunch of little words you can't read back there, but I'm going to try to be quick and stay in my lane. And my area of expertise is electric grids. I've represented residential electric customers for almost 40 years, and I don't think I've ever been more concerned about what the impact of something might be on your weekly electric bills than I am about this. Do you have my slides? Okay, cool. Looks like you actually fixed my slides. Jen, just so you know, just to get started here, I just saw that there was a Morgan Stanley report. This is like an investment advising firm, and they just issued a report last week saying that in communities where these hyperscale data centers have been put up, from 2020 until now, those communities have seen a 267% increase in their electric bills. So we're talking like if your electric bill now is like $100, it would not be surprising to see it go up to $300 or more, tripling your electric rates. Just go ahead, and I'll try to go quickly through my slides because I know you've been sitting here long enough. This is an illustration of what happened last year in Missouri. And in Missouri, we used to have very competitive, lower than average electric rates, but that's quickly disappearing as other things have led our electric rates already. So this is where we're starting from an already rapidly increasing electric rate. Next slide. That's Ameren, Missouri, and you're all mostly Ameren customers, if not maybe electric co-op customers. But this is pretty indicative of what the electric rates have done in Missouri over the last handful of years. Go ahead and move on to the next slide. And I definitely won't go into the detail here, but the main thing here is that this is how the utility rates are set by Ameren, Missouri. They're set by the Public Service Commission in Jefferson City. And when you're not dealing with a municipality, you're not dealing with a co-op, there's a profit. So Ameren, Missouri is an investor-owned company, and their profits are set by the government. And right now, Ameren has about 9.75% profit. So if the hyperscale data centers that are being proposed in our region generally, in the Ameren territory, are all built, I would not be surprised to see Ameren proposing another nuclear power plant. And if they build another nuclear power plant, they stand to gain almost 10% of that per year. So if it's, say, a $10 billion nuclear power plant, they stand to gain hundreds of millions of dollars a year extra profit. So just to say, if you're listening to Ameren, Missouri talking about whether or not you're protected as a customer, just keep in mind that they're not an innocent bystander. They have a lot at stake here. They could make a lot of money off of this. So that's just to take what they say with a grain of salt. Move on here. And this is what is leading up to what I think could be a real whammy on your bills. and that is the Senate Bill 4, which passed last year, and I don't know if there was a lot of attention on it. There's so many things going on in the news, but this is going to be one of the biggest things impacting the affordability of your monthly utility bills. And this is just two different provisions in this law. The first one is the one that I'm worried about the most, construction work in progress, we sometimes call it QUIP. This was a problem back when they started building the Callaway nuclear plant in the 1970s. And the voters put a ballot initiative on the ballot in 1976. It passed by almost a 2-to-1 percentage, which banned that practice. And what construction work in progress is making us pay in advance before they've even built the power plant, basically making us make the investment in the power plant. We take the risk whether or not that power plant's going to, actually work out, whether it's actually going to be operational or not. And so for 50 years, we did not allow that practice. They had to actually build their power plants. They had to prove that they were going to work before they charged us, through our electric bills. Well, the legislature just, in a matter of just like a couple of months, they rammed it through and overturned the will of the voters. And I know we were listening earlier about the way that Jefferson City has just overturned the will of the voters on so many things. And this is another one that I think has not really gone noticed, but it's a big deal. The last nuclear power plant, in fact, the only nuclear power plant that's been built in this country over this period of time is in Georgia, and that's the Vogtle plant. And those folks, over a 10-year period in Georgia, they paid, the average household paid $500 a year for 10 years before the power plant was even built. In South Carolina, they started to build a nuclear power plant, and this actually was one that was planned for Missouri in 2009, did not happen here, and it didn't happen in South Carolina. But they collected billions of dollars in advance from South Carolina ratepayers before they abandoned the plant, and very little of that money ever got refunded. So that's one of my biggest worries, is the upfront cost before the data centers come, before the power plants are here to serve these mega things. And if the projections are correct, data centers could make up as much as 40% of electric demand. And if you think that that's not going to affect you, well then I'm here to disabuse your notion. Yeah. Go on to the next slide, and I'll just be kind of quick here. And this is what I'm worried about. The best information we have is that 40% of Missourians, and I checked the numbers for this county, and it's right about the same. It's pretty much 40% in the urban and rural parts of the state. 40% of households are just right at the margin. If you add any more to their weekly expenses, they're going to start going underwater. They're not going to be able to pay, and you're going to start pushing people to the point where they can't afford their homes anymore. And the cost of Senate Bill 4 from those other parts of Senate Bill 4 could potentially add $727 more a year to your annual utility expenses. And moving on to that, there was another thing to point out about these jobs, and I know this, one of the, I'd say data center development that just fascinates me is that these decisions are going to have so much impact on our economy and on our environment and our neighborhoods, and we really don't know. This is unlike any other type of development controversy I've seen before. Usually you're talking about a lot of jobs that are coming. You're kind of weighing the negatives against the jobs. There's very little jobs, and I think the jobs that they're talking about mostly are going to be remote. These might even be people who live in the area. And on the other end, you have the impact to losing jobs from electricity. This is a study that was done in 2013 on Missouri data, and this shows that whenever electric prices go up by 10%, you have about a 1.8% reduction in jobs. And this is because small businesses, medium-sized businesses, all types of other businesses other than just the construction jobs for the initial development of these things has a negative impact on the economy. So it's kind of a negative impact on electric rates, a negative impact on employment, as far as I can see. Go on. And so there's three categories of things that I'm worried about from data centers. The first one I've already talked about is the fact that they might make us pay on average, $500 more a year for maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. to build a nuclear power plant or something of the size that will be able to handle the demand. And then the next category of concerns about electric rates are how do you divide that up? So if you have several new power plants, is the data center going to pay their fair share? Are they going to pay what their cost? And there has been some work on that. So when you hear people say Senate Bill 4, they're talking about another part of that legislation, which did ask the Public Service Commission to look at how you share that cost. And they did pass some rules. I don't think they went far enough, but there are some guardrails in place to make sure that the data centers pay close to what they are causing on the system. I don't think they go fair enough. And when I read this letter that Provident Data Centers sent to you all saying that the that the data centers are going to pay 100% of their costs, that's just simply not true. Because the protections don't go that far. We're going to be paying 20%, 50% of their costs, the way that the rules are written. And then the third category has not been discussed at all. And I was glad that you mentioned the decommissioning too, because think about this. How often is technology changing? How often is one technology superseded by another technology? These big, I don't care how big they are, that technology may not last very long. It may be 5 or 10 years, and they'll decide there's something else that's even better, or even more efficient, or even more ginormous. And what happens then? What happens if the data center doesn't come, but they've built a power plant to serve it? Well, then we're paying 100% of this new power plant. And our rates will definitely double or triple. So go to the next one. So this is just some of the things that occur to me about what could go wrong. And nobody wants to plan for the worst, but there could be an AI bubble burst. There could be a new technology that all of a sudden says, well, we can do this data crunching more efficiently, so we don't need all that power. Well, we've built a power plant anyway. Who's going to pay for it, right? There could be business disruptions. I don't know that I'm convinced that there's going to be an AI bubble, but there could be the kind of disruption where some of these data centers are determined to be obsolete while others aren't. But what if the ones in Franklin County or Jefferson County or St. Louis County, what if those data centers are no longer needed? Well, then we're picking up the tab for the whole thing. It's a huge amount of risk. They are socializing the risk of this huge leap in technology just to privatize the profits. And the way I see it, they have very little risk because they're wanting to put that risk on the rest of us. Yep. Come on. So this is a bunch of detail that you probably can't read, but this is what they say is going to protect you as far as the large load tariff approved by the Public Service Commission. And for instance, this letter says that, well, they're going to pay 100% of their cost. Well, the Public Service Commission is only requiring 80% of the cost, just to begin with. And that does not include those quick charges, which are going to come before the power plants here. It does not include the fact that if everyone is building these new power plants, there's going to be a shortage of components, there's going to be a shortage of workers who know how to do it, and so the cost of all those components is going to go up. And so the cost of the next nuclear power plant is probably going to be more than the one that they built in Georgia. And so there are just many ways that this is a real risk to our affordability and the bills that we pay every week on the kitchen table. There's just no doubt in my mind that there are going to be massive increases. And yet, I'm sure you're going to say, well, if they don't build it here, they'll build it somewhere else, right? And you're going to get into the situation where you're going to be asked to negotiate on this and try to come up with conditions to maybe make it less horrible. Well, one thing I would suggest is that you look at community benefit agreements. If there are negotiations going on, I would ask that these folks that are coming in, these guys got deep pockets, I would ask that they put some type of fund together, some kind of community benefit together that would provide money to this community right now and not down the road. I read the headline in the St. Louis Post today was about data centers, and there was a quote there from someone in O'Fallon who said, well, we might lose out on the tax money on the upfront, but we'll gain it down the road because they've entered into agreements where they're going to get all these tax abatements, up front. And the community gets all these promises down the road. Well, those promises might not be worth anything if this entity goes bankrupt or it's no longer here anymore. My advice to you, and this is from a lot of deals where I feel like I've gotten screwed, I would say get upfront what you need. Get your benefit now, and don't wait for it down the road, because that just isn't very likely. The other thing that I've seen is, these large monopoly utilities like Ameren, Missouri, these big data centers, they have so much money that they also have political influence. They have the ability to change the deal. They can go to Jefferson City and just change the deal like that. And so it really is best to get something in hand, to get something up right now. That's the best advice that I have to you, but I would just thank you for letting me be here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
Thank you, John. I'm going to invite Jessica to come up and introduce the rest of our panelists and talk a little bit about counting process. And then I know we are coming into some of our question time. We have this space for a little bit longer, so we'll make sure to get folks' questions at the end here.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessie Lee. I am an attorney local to the area and a Deloge resident. Today I'll be introducing you to our current legal team. We have Bruce Morrison. He is general counsel. He's Great Rivers Environmental Law Center. He's an incredible environmental lawyer and manager. And he has been retained privately by Deloge Estates to protect us against this data center development and make sure things are being followed legally. We also have Elkin Kistner of Kistner, Hamilton, Elon, and Martin, LLC, who is a municipal lawyer who specializes in county processes as well as city processes. And the most important thing is these two were members of the team that led to the St. Charles moratorium. So they have extreme so incredibly grateful for the work they are doing and the work of this community, and I am so grateful to each and every one of you for standing up and sharing your voices with us, and a gratitude to the commission that will listen to us because they know that our citizens deserve to be heard. So what we're going to do now is going over a bit of just an overview of what the Planning and Zoning Commission process looks like, what they can decide, and what the steps will be for this file as they're being heard on March 17th. I'd like to invite Bruce up to maybe discuss that, as well as Elkin, and they can tag team the questions, and we'll also be answering some Q&A from a legal perspective, with the caveat that as a lawyer, you do have to retain some of your strategy privately, as we are privately retained employees of Deloge Estates as it is. So some things can't be answered. We're not hiding things from you. We're keeping our strategy close to the chest so it is effective for each and every one of you. Thank you.
All right, I'm the Bruce, and not the Elkin coming up next. I only need a couple of minutes. And if there's a slide for me, there's only one. So there's Great Rivers Environmental Law Center. It provides free legal services for people and organizations that want to protect the environment and public health. We're concerned about data centers at Great Rivers. We know the environmental impacts are substantial. They're huge. Energy, water, air and lung disease, your heating and cooling bills, noise, property values. But the problem as we see it is that the environmental tools, they're not so good. And that's a consequence of deregulation that's been going on for now the last couple of decades. So as regulation goes away, then what remains in the toolbox for community? Not a lot. A nuisance suit, I think. Probably a nuisance suit. And if that's your only tool, are you really going to use it? Are you really going to spend money? Let's just say a data center gets developed and your life at your property is pretty trashed. Are you really going to spend money on a lawyer and on several experts to be suing that data center? Usually doesn't happen. Not a good tool that's left. So what's that mean? It means that At the Franklin County level, planning and zoning, county commission, those are the effective stops. If there's gonna be a stop, that's where they need to be. That's where they're gonna be. The state government's not out there as a backstop. The federal government is not out there as a backstop. The tools are just not there. So what needs to happen? What does community need to do? It needs to turn out. While these data centers are being proposed, community needs to turn out. It's just open season out there in Franklin County, it seems. There's so much money out there potentially being dangled in front of the county government. Community needs to turn out. It needs to turn out on March 17, and it probably needs to keep turning out for a few months after that at least. And why? It's because planning and zoning needs to evaluate the proposals that are before it, needs to take the time, needs to do it carefully. And that means it really needs to table, again, the matters that are coming up on March 17th. And it has the power to do it. And community needs to ask for it. And planning and zoning needs to protect. It needs an ordinance that's going to look out for community interest. And minor tweaks to what's being proposed out there now, not going to do it. There are tools that planning and zoning can deploy, and they know what they are. The planning staff knows what they are. But data centers as a permitted use in any zoning district, not a good tool. Planning and zoning needs to table, community needs to come out and ask for it, demand it. So turn out on March 17, turn out respectively. Being a planning and zoning commissioner is not an easy job, I expect. I think after this is over, those of you in the room probably aren't going to volunteer. I want to be on planning and zoning next year. But turn out, and I look forward to seeing you all on March 17. I'm going to be there in February too.
Oh, good.
And so just as an overview to explain the process moving forward. So on March 17th, we will have the planning and zoning meeting at the high school. I would love to see every one of your faces there, because at that point, they will bring the files forward to planning and zoning. What that means is they will be read into the minutes. There are four main files we're really looking at. We're looking at the data center regulations, which are being proposed to change the amendments of Franklin County. If those pass through, they change open season for data centers in the entire county. And those will be brought as a file one. There's 2 files associated with Diamond Farms, and those are rezoning requests. And they want to move it from, currently it's agricultural, recreational, small business, and they would like to make it industrial. And there's 2 lots on that. And then there will be the McLaren Farm at Crooked Creek, which is asking for the same rezoning to move to industrial. The process that happens is that first it's brought before planning and zoning, and they can make a recommendation. They read the files, they talk amongst themselves, they will hear our public comments, and they make a recommendation, either to approve or deny the requests for each of those files. Following that, it moves to the county commission, our 3-part commission, and they will make the final determination. So it's a 2-part series. First, planning and zoning makes their recommendation, then it goes to the county commission, and they make their final statement. We'd like to move to the next slide. So our Planning and Zoning Commission, this is the one on March 17th we'll be presenting in front of, is made up of these members and their townships. I do encourage you to contact your township representative. You're also allowed to contact Planning and Zoning generally, and state your claim. Make an email, make a letter, a phone call, however you feel comfortable to share your thoughts and opinions. And then it'll go to the county commission. This is a 3-part commissioners with our presiding commissioner, our 1st district commissioner, and our 2nd district commissioner. These are the 3 men that will make the final decision. It goes to planning and zoning, they make their recommendation, and then it falls to these 3 men to decide whether this will go through or not. You are able to contact them currently. You can email them here, and I really encourage you to do so. They also have their attorney, Mike Piantek. He is hired by the county to represent the county. He is meant to inform them of their legal options and to represent the county, not individual applicants. We also have the ability to contact planning and zoning commissioners. You can contact their general email or their director, Nicole. As people have mentioned before, if you're going to submit written testimony or evidence for the hearing, we would like that to go in before March 6th at 4:30 p.m. You simply email them, tell them, this is the file I'm writing it for, please official record. At that point, planning and zoning is going to review those records, review those documents, as well as the county commission. They will follow the files as they go. I know it can seem like an overwhelming process, but it's really simple. Show up on March 17th, email your representatives, and let's get this thing stopped. Thank you.
I'm typically semi-organized. I thought I was, but in any event, I'm Elkin Kisner, started practicing local government law in 1986. Started representing community groups after I left government in 1990. I'll just get to the point here. Your government has a lot of discretion. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but if they make a decision that you don't like and you have to sue, they're going to have the benefit of a tailwind and you will not. That's not to say that the task is insurmountable. It definitely is, depending on the circumstances. But let's just dwell on what is the realm of possible. You know, the team that has been alluded to, Bruce Morrison, some City of St. Charles residents, an engineer, and John Bognar, a geologist who's in the audience. We all contributed a fair amount to getting prepared. There was a public relations kind of advisory group that did a magnificent job of communicating with the media and getting the message out. But really, everything became kind of unimportant relative to what happened when the community mobilized and became a tsunami at the convention center meeting. And I don't think that the city council or the developer had any appreciation of what was going to happen that night. I've never witnessed anything like it in my career. Our job was eliminated that night because people like you were able to organize and let the political actors know and the developer know that you weren't going away. So I know this is stupid simple, but you can save a lot of time and energy just by mobilizing. Now, you shouldn't be Molotov cocktail throwing. Make sure you equip yourselves with knowledge and pay attention to some warning signs. You know, is there opaqueness? Maybe so already. Have timetables been accelerated somewhat curiously? Maybe so already. Think about your talking points, but you can eliminate the need for experts. They should work with you. Maybe consult with lawyers a bit about what what is right and wrong in terms of what you say about the law or legal strategy. But you as citizens will get the attention of the political actors well before any of the experts will. And just look at what happened in the city of St. Charles, use that to and I think in other communities now at the same time. And that's all I would say to you. And you're doing it already. Even lawyers have hearts. Working alongside a group that mobilizes itself for the common good is in fact a bit inspirational, even to a lawyer.
And I want to really highlight that last point. We have, I don't know exactly how many, but somewhere in the room about 200 folks in this room. If we all show up on the 17th, it'll send a very clear message about what we feel about these data centers, and it will tell our elected officials and our appointed officials what is important and who they are representing and what they need to do out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass over so that we can learn a little bit more. So Kathy is going to tell us a little bit more about our next steps towards the 17th. You've received a lot of information today. I know I'm swimming in it, and I got to review all the materials beforehand. So what we want you to walk away with is what Kathy is going to give you some information about, and then we'll have time for questions.
Hello, I am Kathy Boland. I'm a member of the Franklin County Rural Coalition. I am the treasurer for the Deloach Estates Property Owners Association. I am a small business owner, and I am a lifelong crazy horse girl. A few things about the March 17th Planning and Zoning meeting. They did actually secure a larger facility. It is going to be in the Union High School main gym. They've moved the start time back. Typically, they start at 7. They are going to start at 6. The doors will open at 5:30. I encourage everybody to get there early, and I'll explain why. Next slide.
That's St. Patrick's Day.
So, the standard meeting rules, and on the January 20th meeting, there was talk from the county commission that they were very upset that the planning and zoning meeting on the 22nd got out of hand, and it was a bit chaotic. The county attorney, Mark Piontek, had an emergency appendectomy, so he couldn't be there, which is why they're claiming that they're going to have it on the 17th. Either way, at the last planning and zoning meeting, he was very clear that there are specific rules that need to be followed. The first one being, your testimony must be relative to the file that they are currently looking at. Just like what Jesse talked about, there's going to be 4 files that are relative to a data center. There is the data center rules and regulations, first and foremost. That's the first one that they're going to talk about. Then there's 2 rezoning applications for the Data Farms property. And then the last one is going to be for the McLaren property and Pacific. So if you go up there and they're talking about the data center rules and you start talking about the McLaren property, they will stop you. They will not enter your testimony into the record because you're not talking about the file that they are talking about. So please be very clear, because we want to make sure that all of this is public and all of this goes into the record, that you speak about or you testify against the record that they're talking about. Your testimony must be directed to Planning and Zoning Commission only. Eyes forward, talk to those people. You can talk to the Planning and Zoning Commission, you can talk to the county attorney, you can talk to Nicole, who is the director. You cannot talk to the applicant, you cannot talk to the applicant's attorney. They will tell you to stop talking. They're going to be very hard and strict at this meeting. If you wish to submit your testimony, I think we talked about this before, there is a deadline if you want it to be in the packets that go out to the county commissioners, and there is a deadline. You can submit the night of. You can submit written testimony and evidence. However, you need to bring 12 copies of it. There are 11 copies that will be given to Planning and Zoning and 1 for the record. So make sure you bring copies. Now, there are some new rules. The new rules are, if you want to testify, you have to sign up in advance. Unlike the 20th, where if you kind of got inspired and on a whim, you decided you wanted to go up and speak your mind, you can't do that this time. They are going to follow kind of the same way the Pacific does. There will be speaker cards that you will get when you walk in. You're going to sign it, and then from what I'm being told, right before the meeting begins, they are going to walk around with a basket or a box, like a ballot box, and you'll put your speaker cards in, and then they'll sort them up there. You can speak about multiple files. You will have to sign multiple cards. Each card, from what I'm being told, unless they change it, it will be 1 card per file. So if you want to speak on all 4 files, you need to fill out 4 cards. Each speaker will get 3 minutes, not 5. It was 5 in January, and now it's 3. So they're condensing you, and they will time you. They also know that this is going to be huge. I mean, the last time we had a meeting, most people had less than a week to prepare, And we had over 500 people in that room, and down and down the hallway and down the stairs and in the rotunda. It was awesome. Like, I got teary when I saw everybody show up. Like, it was great. They are saying no signs or posters, unlike last time. So what I'm asking, we still need to give them a visual that we are there and we are organized. Wear red. If they look out in that crowd and they see all those people wearing red, we don't need signs. They'll know we're there, and they'll know why we're there. You will be asked to leave for any disruptive behavior. That is clapping, shouting, booing, hissing, or any other behavior that impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. This is zero tolerance. I'm also being told that they are going to have more police officers than they normally do. I think at the January 20th meeting, they may have had 4 or 5. I think they're going to have more this time. So just let's be respectful. Let's let them know that we're not hooligans. And we can also follow guidelines and follow rules. Next slide. So your keys to impactful testimony: be prepared, make good notes, make sure that you don't forget key points you want to make. Come up there with cards. Avoid weak arguments unless you have data to support it. Specificity equals credibility. Raise questions that require answers. They have to know, they have to tell us. I think that they need we need to kind of bombard them with a bunch of questions that they don't have the answers to. That, I think, is a good stall tactic. Your tone also matters. Be calm but firm. Be specific. Avoid personal attacks and generalized fear statements. So our representatives in planning and zoning, we want them on our side, right? We want them to sympathize with us. If you've ever been attacked by somebody, what's the first thing you do? You shut down. You don't listen. We want them to listen. It's important that they listen. And so I think if we're respectful, we try to put ourselves in their place too. I'm not sure that they have the easiest job in that room. They're getting pressure from other places. So let's just understand that they're probably, some of them hopefully are trying to do the best for us and listen to us. I hope that they take the alderman from Pacific as an example. I'm proud of those aldermen. I almost want to move to Pacific because of it. So I hope that our planning and zoning commissions and our county commissions actually listen to us. And that's it. Wear your red. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for being out again tonight. And thank you, Kathy, for that summary of what we're looking at towards the 17th. So show of hands, who is planning on coming to the 17th? Yeah. How many of you can testify? Raise your hand. All right. Patricia is in the back. Everyone who raised their hand, come find Patricia, either during our Q&A or after the meeting. Patricia, you might need to find some volunteers. There's a lot of hands up. Jennifer is gonna help. We wanna make sure that we reach out to you and that we can help you go through this process. It is complex, as we were just walked through. And we wanna make sure that everyone has the support that you need and that we are making sure to say the same thing as many times as possible, make it really clear what we are hoping to do. So thank you again, Kathy, for that very helpful information. We are running a little over, but we want to make sure that we have time for folks' questions. Do any of our panelists have a hard stop at 5? Okay, I'm hearing no. So we are gonna hopefully take questions for about the next 20 minutes. And what I want to offer here is, we heard a little bit earlier from our attorneys, they're not able to get into some of the specifics of our legal strategy. We're not necessarily able to get into a lot of the specifics of these sites and of the county process right now. I want to be clear, a lot of that is because this information has been put behind non-disclosure acts. It has been said and shared behind closed doors and isn't available to the public. So, we're not going to be able to answer your questions towards that necessarily. We can take it as a shot, but I just want to temper folks' expectations. I also know that this is a really intense, emotional moment for a lot of folks. This is our livelihood, our homes, our community, our loved ones. This is a space where we'll, if you get emotional at the mic, that's okay. We want to permission that. We also want to, give folks a second just to compose themselves before you come up to the mic, kind of think through what you want to offer. This isn't, though, a platform for you to share your 2 cents on what you think about the commissioners or what you think about these data projects, right? We want to make sure that we get to the questions that folks have about what these data centers are and aren't, the effects they'll have on us in the community. So in short, if you're going to come and ask a question, please ask a question. We've all been to the commission meetings or seen where folks are like, oh, this is my moment to get on my soapbox. This isn't that moment. If you want that moment, come talk to me. You can moderate the next one, please. So with that, the way that this will work is we have a mic up here in front. If you can come up to the mic, I'll point out the questions once we get there. You can come up to the mic, ask your question. It'll then go to one of our panelists to answer. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll start right here in the front. Yeah, if you don't mind speaking into the mic. Oh, Patricia, can you put the slider for the first mic up, Melissa?
Is it working now?
Oh, you might have to flip the little switch on the front there. Here, I got you. There you go.
Thank you. I thought I heard where the Planning and Zoning Commission may say, no, we don't recommend this, but then the 3 people above them could ignore their recommendation. Is that true?
So the question being, can the commission ignore the recommendations of planning and zoning? Looking towards our lawyers.
So, yeah, you can't ignore it. So I believe I haven't seen the Franklin County code and maybe and a supermajority rule, but they can't just ignore it. What the planning and zoning has to say.
Yeah, I suppose that, so can't ignore it, but I suppose they can reject it.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. The question is whether it's a supermajority or not. But of course, with 3,
Yeah.
So there's no such thing.
Is that then a lawsuit would be filed if they had the supermajority to not do what the planning and zoning committee recommended?
So part of our charge is to look out for violations, potential claims, lawsuits that could be filed, and we're going to be looking. And probably, regrettably, not sharing that strategy because we're just returning it right over to the other side.
Right. No, absolutely. All right, right here in the right. And we're going to get through a lot of questions, so apologies. We're not going to get to everyone.
Okay, so this is a long-winded question. I'll do my best. My name is Jim Roberts. I don't know if anybody else has been following the closed general landfill. My wife spoke with Bruce on the phone quite a few times about this. Local government has failed us. And right now, our county commissioner leaders, Dave Schatz, as everybody knows, is not an elected official. He's been backdoored in by Governor Kehoe. So the Franklin County Commission is going up for a vote this year. And I've been failed by them. I think we're going to get failed by them, unfortunately, unless we really turn out and follow through on this. But I am going to be running I'm considering running for County Commissioner, Franklin County. it should not be political. It should not be Democrat versus Republican. There should be a problem and a solution. Listen to the people of Franklin County. That's how I feel. With that being said, I'm running as an independent, but the two-party system does not want that to happen. So I have to jump through hoops and sign a petition and get 2% of Franklin County registered voters to even run for an independent.
What's your name?
Jim Roberts.
I'll write it in.
Yeah, Jim Roberts, and if you want to see a little bit what I've been about, you can follow Closed Generally Landfill on Facebook, and then you can also Google Orange Toxic Goo, KDSK Channel 5, and you'll see my 5 minutes of fame.
All right, thank you. I didn't hear a question in that.
I guess what my question would be, would the people of Franklin County be willing to vote for a regular guy like me?
Yeah. I will take this question.
But again, that was just Closed Generally Landfill on Facebook. That's what got me started in this big fight. And my name's Jim Roberts, and we got 2 petitions on the table over there, so if that's something people want to see some leadership, I've been here all my life. Take the politics out of leadership. There's 2 petitions over there, and I got one right here, and you guys would be willing to pass it around. It's just got to be legible, and you can be a registered voter of Franklin County.
Thank you for the work that you're doing. I appreciate you stepping up. And I will say that we do not officially have a stance on the commissioner's race at this point. So this is not the stance of Franklin County.
Do your own research.
100%. I appreciate the intentionality here. One thing that I do want to add to this is one thing that we are doing as a group, and we want to invite folks to, is we are, Franklin County Rural Coalition, holding a candidate forum at the end of the month. We are reaching out to our commissioners as well as state representatives to invite them to that town hall. Details are incoming, but the goal behind this is to find elected officials and the stances that they have on these data center sites and to learn more. We are a nonpartisan group, so we do not affiliate with either party or with any candidates, but do feel like it is our elected officials' responsibilities to listen to us and to represent our wants. So I will take some more questions, I think right here on the aisle.
This whole thing has bothered me that, you know, these planning and zoning meetings that we've been having with the county. The first one on the 20th was supposed to be about the rules for a data center. And then the 17th meeting that's coming up is about 4 things, the rules for the data centers and then the 3 property zonings. It almost sounds like it's already coming, whether we like it or not, based on they're going through these rules versus do we want data centers or not. So for the question for the lawyers, is that a true statement that this is coming whether we like it or not because they're already doing the rules for it?
The answer is no. I mean, no, I mean, there's hope.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. That's a short answer.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here as well. So I offered a little bit of myself, but not necessarily a full introduction. So my name is Lucas Kirk. Like I said, I've lived in Sullivan, Missouri my whole life. I am a political organizer, so I do this kind of work, right? I help volunteers figure out how to work on the things that they care about. And I will say that the most powerful tool that we have is working in solidarity together and lifting up our voices to public officials. When Missourians have shown up, I mean, to the point that the Respect Missouri voters folks were talking about, we've been able to pass some significant legislation through ballot initiative and through other political processes. We have politicians who are reluctant to listen to us, but they are not immune to listening to us. And so I think it's really important, and one thing I want to lift up about these data center fights is that we are able to fill rooms like these because people care deeply about this, and we have seen across the state fights against these data centers be successful in preventing them from starting construction or slowing or halting the processes altogether. We've seen this in St. Louis, we've seen this in St. Charles, there's currently efforts in Festus in Jefferson County, working to slow and stop that process. Montgomery County has a large development, and we are in conversations with those folks statewide to also help develop a statewide strategy to start working on a lot of these issues. So I'm going to go right here in the neon yellow shirt. Yep, you stood up. You were right. Yeah, come on up. You want to go to the mic, that'd be great.
My question's for the lawyers. I know that the botanical garden opposes this. Their lawyers have written something. I talked to the lady in charge of the Eagles in Missouri with the Missouri Conservation Department. They put out a statement in DNR. I mean, can you guys work with them, or can we work with them? And I mean, because they have some power. You know, Missouri Botanical Garden used to, I don't know how it still is, but, and the Conservation Department. So I just want to know if we were working in conjunction.
Yeah, I will let you all answer if you want. I might add a little bit of context here as well. I will say that we are definitely keeping eyes on what these other folks are doing. But a lot of the barriers that you're talking about with the Eagles and the conservation and things like that have to get to a certain level of the process here before we can do those. So we're in solidarity, we are helping where we can and where it has been made transparent to us. They do have separate processes that are insulated from us knowing. And one of our hopes as the organizers, like helping to do this, is to prevent this from getting to that point to where we have to pursue those legal strategies. So that's our goal of like showing up in mass numbers on the 17th, is to make sure that we don't even have to get to the point they end it. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm able to share this. The director of the Shaw Nature Preserve we've been in contact with, and their legal representation has been aware of the changes, the timelines. They will be present to defend them on March 7th.
Thank you very much. Back here with the multicolored scarf in the very back.
Thank you. This is basically a process question. Thank you to Keith for bringing up the land use amendments to 7 and 10. I understand from research that there's protest rights, that we can block those amendments or require a higher threshold with the owners of 30% of the frontage within 1,000 feet. I have a two-part question. Do all the signatures of the landowners on that petition need to be notarized? And two, when does that protest need to be filed? Can we file it now, or do we have to wait until they pass the amendments to file it?
Our lawyers are
Yeah, so I plead ignorance. Doesn't mean I can't get, educated about it real quick, but I just don't know the answer to the question right now. Does anybody else?
So it's my understanding.
Because I think we got the 30% covered. I just need to know when and if I need notarization.
Of course, sorry. So I have read that statute. My understanding is that yes, the homeowners are entirely against this, the ones we've spoken to, which is the vast majority. The issue with it is it does not stop it. It makes it require a supermajority vote through the commission. So it really just changes the numbers of votes they have to have. The way Franklin County is set up, it wouldn't have a huge impact. We can explore it, and I can talk to you afterwards, but we have looked into that. It's not the best course of action for us.
All right. Additional, Patricia in the back, do you have a question? Yeah, go ahead. Patricia is one of our organizers too, so I'm really curious what her question is. Hopefully it's good, or otherwise she's fired. She wishes I was fired.
I saved this one up for you, Lucas.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question, again, of the folks who know a bit about energy policy. So I'm curious about the abatements and incentives that our county and cities can provide, and how much transparency do they have to have on that with the citizens? Because we've heard nothing, there's been nothing in the paper, we don't really know. So what can we expect from that process?
Generally speaking, there's not much of a requirement to affirmatively disclose. But what we ran into in the city of St. Charles, which ended up becoming moot because of the tsunami that occurred, we did encounter resistance, we think, and obstructiveness by the city in terms of responding to sunshine law requests. But generally speaking, you have to have hearings, and the hearings have to have the content of what you expect at a hearing. You get to ask questions of people and things like that. But there really isn't a lot of teeth in Missouri law in terms of making government entities affirmatively disclose things. Not notices just to meetings, things like that. But getting real with you affirmatively, you know, that's more of a political question.
I think that would be really important to us as people who pay taxes, that we know where that money is going. So I would urge people in the room to be very vocal about that. Maybe letters to the editor, something that calls out some accountability.
Lovely. Elizabeth, can you raise your hand in the back there? If folks want to write letters to the editor on these kinds of things, Elizabeth is manning a small group who is doing that kind of thing. So go talk to Elizabeth. We would love to have your help. Back here in the back corner. Hi there.
I guess for the lawyers, I was wondering, is there a place, a resource on the internet somewhere for Franklin County codes?
So I can answer this one. This one, it is, they are posted on the Franklin County government website. So if you look up Franklin County government, it's like, I forget the URL.
No.
Not there? Oh.
No, that's what
it was at one point, but I
It is mysteriously not available on the website. I will post it in the Franklin County Rural Commission link. If you've ever emailed planning and zoning like we request you do, there is also a link for it in your email signature.
So you have a copy of it?
Yes, I can get that link to you. Do you have Facebook? Is that the best place to get information out? Okay.
Everybody else.
Do you have an email address?
Yeah, Minecraft.
Let us have your email and we'll send it.
Okay. Also, what is the order again, or are you going to list that of the files in the order? Because after you said the files, afterwards it became apparent that it was important about the order. So are you going to have a list of what the order is?
So regarding the order, the actual agenda, the first one will be file 260036, which is the amending the unified land use regulations to include data centers. So that's the first file. The second file is the Diamond 66 property, which is the 39 acres that's up along Osage over 6 Mid. The third file is 250270, which is the Diamond Farms property, which is the 574.3 acres. The fourth file is the BLE Land Holdings LLC, which is 260037, and that is the McLaren property. So that's the order they'll go in. They will go in the data center rules, 66, Diamond Farms, McLaren.
We'll add that to the slideshow. We will post this on Facebook. If you do not have Facebook, I guess find me and give me your email address, and I will make sure that you get the email. So again, we'll put that in here so it's really clear on what the file numbers are and the order of it on the agenda.
I think we also got folks' email on your registration, or if you didn't register and sign up, so we can make sure to send that out as well. I think we have time for one more question, right here in the neon skirt.
First of all, can we wear yellow?
I think yellow, yellow with red sounds great. Yeah.
Is it considered you can't wear it because it's a sign?
No, if it's on your shirt, it's not a sign.
Gotcha. Okay. The other question that I have is, at the State of the Union address, the President was saying that the data centers are going to have their own electrical company and not be draining our grid. I don't know if that's true or not, that's what he said. And if that be the case,
will these backup generators become the generator? And will they be incredibly noisy? The other question I have is, I'm a beekeeper, and last year, a whole bunch of bees died, half of them in the country, and so they're already stressed. These could easily wipe out the bees. Is there a way we can make it so that they legally cannot put data centers in farmland to protect the bees so they can pollinate, so we don't starve to death?
All right, so two-part question there. I heard on the State of the Union address, yes, also that our grid is not sufficient to power all of the data centers. Is that true? Might be. If I had to guess, I would say so. But no, I don't think these diesel generators can be a primary source of the power. But it does speak to just the enormous power needs, and we've got a big problem here as far as powering these facilities. I don't know what we're going to do. And yes, I think if the data centers were at least permitted in some zoning district, either as a permitted use or a conditional use, that would alleviate any Commerce Clause constitutional concerns. So that's possible if planning and zoning were so inclined to draft an ordinance in that fashion. Now, the gentleman, I know I'm not the moderator, but I'll certainly stay around and answer any other questions if there isn't time for us as a group.
Perfect, thank you. Lovely. We are at time. So, and not only at time, but about 15 minutes over, and I want to respect the time of our moderators and for those who were able to make it out today. I appreciate everyone showing up here. You are welcome to come talk to us afterwards. We just do not have the time. I mean, our panelists are already starting to pack up. No, I want to appreciate everyone who came out today, and I want to leave you with two things. So first, please come on the 17th. Please talk to Jennifer or Patricia if you are able to give testimony. We will make sure to help coach you and make sure you have the information that you need to make that testimony count. And then we will also be continuing to do more events in the county until we are assured that there are no data centers that are going to be built across this county. So please follow us on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel, join our email list, all of that, and we will make sure to keep you appraised on what is coming up next. So Jennifer is flagging me down. Yes, on your way out, there are flyers. They have QR codes, Linktree. You can get all of that information I just talked about. So grab a flyer, talk to our organizers, and we'll see you at our next event.
No, I think you're all good. No, he wrote out. Oh, okay.